So the aim for today, from my point of view, is to be able to share the 3 steps to becoming intentional with wealth creation post COVID-19. As I say to you, is being able to plan after COVID-19 has come to an end. How will you execute? I'm not sure how you used to play when you were younger, but I remember when I was younger, we used to play sports like, like racing. So would go and get on your knees and start, and one would say, on your marks, get set, go. And if you were ready, you would run the fastest. And if you weren't ready, then you would trip and things would fall apart. I keep saying to people, that's the same way it's going to happen after COVID-19. When the doors are open, it's those who are on their marks, ready to go. And those who are maybe standing are not quite in that position. Unfortunately, it could be quite challenging and disastrous. So my hope is that God will help us, that we all be ready and plan to execute. So I always like to start obviously with scripture, because the Bible is my biggest anchor. So I'm anchored in the word of God to know what God is doing per time. So the assurance is that God is still in the business to prosper his people. So Deuteronomy 8:18 tells us that we remember the Lord our God, which is a profound statement for me, for it is he that will give us power to create wealth, so that he may establish the covenant which he swore unto our forefathers. And the reason I say that is because right now people are afraid, people are in fear. It's easy to lose sight of really who gives us power. So it's going back to saying, right, as I plan and prepare, I believe that God will give me power to create wealth. Why? Because he still has the same agenda. So he establishes the covenant which he swore unto our forefathers, and that hasn't changed. So be assured that no matter what's happening, whether there's COVID-19, there isn't, whatever is happening, God hasn't still changed. And the assurance that again I have is from the scripture Isaiah 48:17, that this is the Lord thy God, thy Redeemer, the Holy One, that says, I am the Lord thy God, that teacheth thee to profit. So in times of uncertainty, we want to go to one teacher who will teach us to profit, who will show us what does the future look like. We all know from the book of Genesis where God prospered Isaac, and it was in the time where there was famine, and the man, sowed in famine and he reaped 100-fold. So that same God, I believe, is here today. And the things that we're facing today with COVID-19, I don't believe there's anything new under the sun. There's been plagues in the Bible, so we know that has happened before. There's been circumstances that have been beyond, that have happened before, but God still stays the same. And the question is, are we asking God for what to give us to do, so we can move forward and prosper? I believe we are, otherwise we would not have been on this particular call. So my quest is that, as we do all these things, let us continue to look unto God, who alone is the finisher and the author and the finisher of our faith. There are various effects that COVID-19 is having on many families. This crisis has brought uncertainty in homes. So people are, for those who are finding financial challenges as, a daily experience, are going into debt. So the debt ratio is growing at a very fast pace. So the question is, do I want to be a victim of that? Do I want to be a victor as a result of all of that? People are losing their jobs. People are lacking money. Many might have jobs and are working, but yet they feel that they have nothing to show for it. If you've got investments, chances are, they're either doing really, really well, or they are not doing well at all, just because of the global economic uncertainty around what's going on. Business failures, you hear on the news, you can see it happening. There are businesses that are failing, but at the same time, there are businesses that are prospering. So we cannot compartmentalize everything and think that this is the end, that life is, happen and things are going to fall apart. There is a way out, and I believe that if one can have the eyes to see, that God will position for us to do greater things. So if I look and I see, a lot of news on a daily basis, what's coming on, there is fear that is breeding across. We are people of faith, yes, but even in the body of Christ, people are also feeling the fear and are responding to the fear, worrying about the future and what the future will hold. But we can actually move away from all of that. So in my conversation today, let me first of all be able to give you a disclaimer. This session is for educational purposes only. I am not giving financial advice. I am not giving financial ideas to say, go and do this. The materials provided should be taken only to be able to demonstrate to you what is a possibility. And you have to go and perform due diligence to make sure that validate the information, get accurate information, in fact, get professional help so that you can be able to prepare and to prosper. I'm trying to just prod your mind to get you thinking about what it would take. So here is my thinking. Step number one is going to take for you to have clarity on a personal financial vision. So your vision has to consist of, even though we're talking about finances, is you as an individual holistically. Where do you see yourself in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and beyond? Why beyond? Because the Bible tells us to leave a legacy, an inheritance for our children's children. Yes, in the midst of disaster and calamity, God is able to prosper us. The question is, are we planning to get ready with our finances? So wherever you will see yourself, I believe will be an indicator to help you to know whether you've planned your finances and are ready to move forward. Let's see. And I need to just admit some people that have come in. I beg your pardon, Pastor. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you want to be clear about your personal vision, your vision that will look at your 1, 3, 5, 10 years, where you want your life to end up in going. And because I am preaching to the already converted, we all understand that the Bible talks about vision, that a man without a vision will perish. So your ability to be able to create like God is what dies. So in this conversation, my hope and desire is that you're activating your creativeness, the part of God in you to create in the midst of calamity. So I bring good news that in as much as there is doom and gloom, I believe that there is also opportunity. So your job is to plan, where will my children be? If my son is 10 years old, in 10 years time, where will he be? 20. What will he be doing? If you as a parent have not got a plan for your child, unfortunately, they will end up in an undesirable position. What about looking at your own retirement? You won't work forever. So you better plan around your retirement such that, you know, when time comes for you to retire, you're retiring because you are finished and therefore you want to take some time and rest rather than be working forever. You need to get clarity on your objectives as to why do I want to create wealth? What are the main reasons to get wealthy? So here was my own goals. Okay, so it's easier to speak and talk about what people should do, to tell people what, you know, believe that they should be doing. But I went from a stay-home mom, okay, to a property millionaire. It was not because I am smarter or I'm even better. Majority of you will have heard my story. I haven't even had the privilege to go to college or university. I believe that all skills are learnable. The question is, are we prepared to apply ourselves to the learning? And when we get the learning, are we then ready to execute and take that learning to the marketplace? And if we are, I believe the rest happens because God is a God that I believe is, you know, is a good God. So here were my goals. So my goal was to build a successful business, okay? Not to be a landlady, not to be a landlord, but to build a successful property business. And success meant having income coming into my property business on a passive basis. So I had to stop, you know, get to a place where I stopped to be able to trade my time for money. That then became the driving force. How did I arrive at having £100,000 income annually coming in that I should be, you know, able to focus on? I looked at what are called key life events. So this is where I looked at what are the financial obligations that I have, that I know I'll be able to face as well, that I must prepare for. So my son, it was his school. At the time I was starting off, he was obviously quite young. So it was his school helping him to go to a really good school that I thought would be able to help him out. It was being able to take care of my family back at home in Zambia. I come from Zambia, being able to support my own community, and the list was huge. So I figured that, you know, maybe 100,000 is the amount. It was a big goal, but I had to start from somewhere. And, you know, by God's grace, over a period of time, we then got to achieve our goal. So my goal was to go beyond just me, and it's still just beyond me. So I can aim to creating a legacy that lives beyond not just my next generation, but generations to come, because it's what scriptures say, for you to leave an inheritance for your children's children. So I'm hoping that as you're thinking about, what your goal should be, what your plan should be in the year 2020, where we have this COVID-19, ignore that for a minute. Ignore the circumstances. Instead, look at the creativeness in terms of, what do I want to create? And even as I speak, I'm reminded of the scripture where God told Abraham, he asked him to, look to the north, the south, the east, and the west, as far as your eyes can see. That is the land I will give unto you, and also for you as an inheritance for you and the seed that will come beyond you. So it wasn't his current circumstances. It was in fact looking beyond what experiences that, the current situation he was in. So if you're clear around your goals, what you then want now is to begin to break down those goals, okay? Taking stock as to, okay, if my goal, for example, is to acquire X amount of money, let me take stock of what investments I have currently and how they're performing. If you don't have any investments currently, then you want to understand, what must I do to actually create investments? It doesn't matter whether you have a 9-to-5 job, you still should be able to have multiple sources of income. And that should be something that you're thinking about constantly, because the income is not going to be from one tap. It's going to be from various other strategies that are going to be able to help you in growing your portfolio, to help you meet your financial obligations. Sorry, let me just admit some more people that have come in. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Sorry, Pastor. I'm having to enter people as they're coming on.
No worries. Thank you so much.
So please, people, bear with us. I will move. Anytime as I am sharing. So, okay. We have somebody who's in the spirit singing. We thank God. Awesome. So in moving on, so now, hopefully you've been able to identify what your goals should look like over the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years. As I've given to you my own scenario, you want to break down and understand, what investments do I have and how are they performing? If you don't have any investments, then you have to ask the question, how do I begin to invest? So you start planning your investments. You don't have to end up with millions and millions of pounds before you can get started. In fact, the starting point should be coming up with what you call an annual savings target. So if you've got £50,000 you want to be able to earn or invest in something, you start off from where you are. The Bible tells us to be able to be diligent with what we have. So if you have an annual savings target, how much do I want to save per year? Okay, yes, it's tight right now. Yes, we're in difficult times, but think about the plan. What must I save per year so that, I can be able to invest my money? It could be as little as £20, £50, £100, and there are investments right now. You can put that little bit of money in, that your money begins to grow. What else must you do? Be able to master your money. This is a big one for many people. It was definitely a big one for me, because I did not understand how money worked. So what would happen is I'd earn X amount of money and spend it all and have little or nothing to show for it, as if I never even earned any money. So when as you begin this whole journey of wealth creation, you literally want to make up your mind that you're going to master your money. And that will start by understanding the habits and behaviors that you have with money. If you have a poor relationship with money, unfortunately, it's going to have an effect on how you make money and how you make money even moving forward. So my starting point was getting clarity. My starting point was being able to. Okay, I'm trying to make one because I can hear people in the background. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I'll continue. So you want to be able to master money. So this was a bit of a challenge for me where I didn't understand or learn about money. Therefore, I had to literally know how money works and then begin to learn to make the money begin to work for me. So the next slide is about, I'm sure you may have heard of what is called the rule of 72 that is taught. Now, this is important for you to understand because if you don't have any investments, which means you haven't understood the rule of 72. If you have got investments and they're not working for you, which means you're not working the rule of 72 effectively. So what is this rule of 72? What it means, this is an old banking principle that banks used to be able to use many years ago to work out the number of years it would take for money to double over a period of time. So the way that the scenario works is that, let's say for argument's sake, I have 10,000 pounds. If I have that amount of money and I put it in, I give it to the bank. Okay? Oh, sorry. I'm literally struggling because I hear more and more voices. Mute. I cannot mute. I think it's like Pastor Josephine. Sorry, yeah. Pastor Josephine. Are you able to just mute yourself? We can hear a bit of clinking in the background.
It's muted.
Okay. Sorry, no, it's not. I can see she's not here. Okay, fabulous. So I'll carry on then. Sorry about that. I just struggled to just be able to concentrate as I was hearing the bit of a noise. So basically what this means is you want to understand how money works and then you can begin to make the money work for you. So if you had 10,000 pounds, you would give it to your bank and perhaps your bank would say to you, thank you very much. We're going to give you an interest rate of 3% to say thank you. And therefore, you know, they will make that money, invest it somewhere else, and they be able to make money on your behalf. So if, for example, you put 10,000 in the bank and they're giving you 3%, your job is to work out how long is it going to take for my money to double. If you've seen this principle before, it's so painful to know that if you put your money in the bank, 10,000 pounds, they give you 3% for it. It would take you 24 years to get your 10,000 to double to 20,000 pounds. And why is that? The rule of 72 stipulates that for you to work out how long it would take that amount of money to be able to double, you divide the 3%, the interest rate, into 72, and that then works out the number of years it would take. So if I keep my money at the same 3%, as you can see there, so you do 3 divided by 72 is going to give you 24, which means it's 24 years before I make 20,000 for my 10,000, and a further 24 years before it becomes 40,000. So if you're in your 20s and you give your bank 10,000, by the time the money becomes 40,000, you're going to be going on, you know, another 48 years before that money. So you're going to be in your 60s. Now, if you're saving money for a mortgage, guess how long it would take you to get a mortgage before you can even get started? A very long time. So which means that this money is not working for you. Even if you put the money in another investment and it gives you 3 or 6%, you still have to work out how long it would take for your money to be able to double over a period of time. So here is the scenario. You give your money to the bank and they give you, or not the bank actually, because the banks don't give you that amount of money. You give your money to another investor and the investor gives you 6%. So your job is to divide 6 into 72 of the 10,000. It's going to give you 12. So which means every 12 years, your money is working harder than 3%. So you can see the money has gone from 10,000 to 160 over 48 years. So it's not terrible, but it's not necessarily still the best, right? Now, if you look at the next scenario, you put your money in an investment and you get 12%. You divide 12 into 72 is 6, which means every 6 years, your money is doubling. As you can see there, you get to year 24, The money you made in 48 years, you've made that already in 24 years. So it's now 160 in almost half the time. The same money has gone, if you leave it in that same investment over 48 years at 12%, you end up with £2.5 million. So your job is to know, okay, which one do I want? The 3%, 6%, or 12%? If you have investments right now and you're getting 3% for your investments, chances are the money is not working hard. So you want to think again, where do I put my money so it begins to work harder for me over a longer period of time? I hope that that's making sense. Yeah. So why do I explain this for you? It's for you to understand in this same season, there are opportunities that are ranging from anything that will give you 3%, 6%, and 12%. Your job is to get yourself involved in finding out which ones are they and which ones will give me the return that I'm looking for. And remember, you don't enter into investments just so you can reap your rewards the next day. It will take some time. So be patient even as you invest, because you're not just investing for today, but in fact, you're investing for the long term. So once you have that in place, I believe that what you'll have done is you'll have gotten yourself wisdom, okay? In this time, these uncertain times, the one thing I'm very certain of is that it's going to require wisdom for us to profit. And I heard from Bishop Oyedepo when he talks about wisdom, and he says wisdom is knowing what to do and doing it. So sometimes you would know what to do and not doing it, and that's not wisdom. Sometimes you would know what to do and you wouldn't know what to do and are doing the wrong thing. That too won't profit you. So Isaiah 33:6 says, wisdom and strength shall be the stability of thy times. So our job is to begin to learn how to master the money, how to begin to learn how to make more money, how to manage the money, and how to protect the money. If you can manage what's coming in right now, even though it might be little, for some people might think it's little, believe it or not, if you direct that little into the right channels, that will begin to grow over a period of time. The thing that we have is many people are now not working this rule of 72. Instead, it's working against us. If you have gotten money from the bank, for example, you bought money, you got a car on credit, or you bought handbag using credit card, or whatever you may have bought, any consumer goods, whatever you have bought as a consumer, you are working for the bank. Now, in this time of COVID-19, the banks are waiving all sorts of come and borrow. So your job is to know, am I going to borrow to go and buy food and drink and clothing, or where am I putting the money? Now, I don't want to have to answer whether you're putting the money, you're going to go and get the lending, the money that's being lent to, individuals, grants and things. That's not why we're here. I think why here is to be able to give you the education so you're able to make an informed choice when it comes to your personal finances. So in other words, I'm saying if anyone comes to wave at you any debts that is all around consumerism, you are going further and further away from becoming wealthy. Because this 12% that we're talking about, that becomes $2.5 million in this instance, that's the money the bank is making with your money. Why? Because when you borrow money and you pay with a credit card or whatever card and they charge you 25%, this is how they're making the money, and you are having to pay that level of interest. So you find that you're not making any progress whatsoever, but they're making the progress on your behalf. Instead, you want to make a mental decision. How do I make the rule of 72 to work for me? In this COVID time, what can I do to plan for post-COVID? That's the discipline. So the number one thing is make sure you can manage your personal finances. When Pastor Gina was talking about the 7 envelope system, this was for me, in as simple as it looks, it was a game changer. It was what enabled me to literally learn how to master money. Why? Because money had mastered me. I would buy all sorts of things that really had no value to my life. They were just all consumer items, never assets. And the difference between an asset and a liability is the asset always adds to your pocket. It always brings money into your pocket. A liability is always taken away from your pocket. So your job is to look at your purse and say, is it coming in or is it going out? If there isn't enough coming in, then begin to think, what can I do to serve humanity so I can have more coming into my purse? So I did this exercise. My mentor taught me this one. Say, Caroline, the way you spend money, you will never become wealthy. So I literally had to learn. It's called the 7 envelope system. I did not invent it. You can Google it. It's actually on the internet. And basically what it does is explains to you how to allocate your money according to your priorities. So this is a scenario that I've given as an example. So let's say, for argument's sake, in my household, together we have income of 3,200. What must happen to that money? According to my goals and dreams and financial obligations, I need to allocate money according to those priorities. So let's say, for example, as a child of God, I know I need to tithe. So I need to stay straight away, no arguments, no complications, put my 10% in the basket. That goes in there. What about my household living? How much is the cost of my household living? For many people, this is a big one. Why? Because the amount of money that you spend for your groceries is probably a lot more than you should. So maybe you might be living a little bit beyond, your means, not because there's anything that caused you to say it's a wrong thing to do, but actually it's because you may not have been intentional enough to look at where the money goes per month. So if you can allocate your income towards investments, towards emergency fund, towards paying off your debt, towards insurance, towards even African tax. If you're wondering what African tax is our financial obligations back at home. If you're African like me, I have family and friends and kitchen party and baby shower and funeral that happens, and people call asking for that money. Now, if I'm giving away everything per time as it's calling for my attention, even when my money has finished, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to still go out there and borrow so I can service that need. Well, actually, I learned better. If I've allocated 5% for my African tax, I'll be able to give according to my purse. And when it's finished, I'll tell them, do you know what, this moment is finished right now? Perhaps, I'll help next month. I'll add it to my budget. But for now, I don't have any. So it's called responsible living. I'm not living to impress others or to be able to just stretch myself. In fact, I'm living according to what I'm giving and I'm able to, as opposed to beyond what is a possibility for me. So this then becomes the key area where you begin to literally tell your money where to go, as opposed to your money having a mind of its own. So I put in there 20%. Now let's say, for argument's sake, I'm putting away £600 a month, okay, into this savings pot. Why? Because we want to get investments. If I put £600 a month times 12 months, you can all do your maths. I will end up with some money in my pocket. It won't break the bank. It won't be too much. But if I do this over, say, for example, 2 years, 600 times 24 months is enough money for me to almost begin to think, what can I do with it? I can start building towards a deposit. You're going to think, well, Caroline, where can you buy a house for 200,000, 100,000? Well, there are properties out there you can buy even cheaper than your 100,000. I'll talk to you about properties when we get to that section. So why is this all important? It's all important because you want to take full charge of your finances. As we're in lockdown, this is a time for you to get very careful with your budgeting, very careful with your allocation, so you become full on intentional with your personal finances. So I hope that makes sense for you to be able to think what to do. Now that you have managed, begin to search for investment vehicles. Which car is going to bring me to my destination? Which car is going to take me to where I want to get to? So within investments, it's important for you to know that not every business venture, not everything you hear is what you have to go after. There are certain areas where you can focus on, make sure it works and it grows, and then you go somewhere else. The unfortunate thing is most of us tend to hear of an idea. You hear about property tomorrow, you run to that seminar. You hear about network marketing, you run to that seminar. You hear about HMO, you run to that seminar. You hear about farming, you run to that seminar. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way. That's why you want to spend more time during this time of COVID-19 researching the markets, understanding, taking time to perform your due diligence to know, okay, if I must invest in anything at all, what would that be? So in investments, there are 4 asset classes. So you have number 1 asset class is paper assets. This is where you find things like your stocks and shares, you find your cryptocurrency, you find your bonds, you find treasury bills, you find your cash deposits. These are all paper assets because you're not buying to touch it, to feel it. It's all done as a paper asset controlled by different institutions, including money markets. So you want to just begin to learn, okay, if your stocks and shares, how do they work? So you don't have to become the expert at doing it, but you want to get the basic knowledge. Even when you have to involve a broker, at least you know what they're doing. But if you invest blindly without really understanding anything else, unfortunately, many people have come to me and tell me, Caroline, what do you think about cryptocurrency? I just invested, I lost some money. What do you think about this particular one? Well, I haven't done any of those ones. I haven't done cryptocurrency, and I'm not intending to for now. I know which markets I'm trying to stick to. So right now, my main focus is bonds, treasury bills, and property investments. And I'm sticking there until something else moves on. Partly business, partly only, not so much more commodities. Why? Because I have made sure to hone in, I can focus. Why? Because I understand that the power of focus is what produces. When you're scattergun everywhere, scattering, unfortunately, that does lead to, a lot of difficulties. So the second one you want to look at around investment vehicles is property. Within property, you have what is called residential, okay? Now, residential property simply means properties you're having to buy, okay? Oops, I beg your pardon, I moved too quickly, okay? Residential. So residential is where you're having to buy and let out the house to a family or to individuals, but this is somebody would use this as maybe a basis for a home or somewhere to live, that literally as residence, accommodation. That's what you want to use that for as the first one, okay? So residential property investments is number 1 within property. Number 2 is commercial. This will be a commercial in terms of your retail parks, it will be your hotels, it will be your pubs, it will be your restaurants. They all fall in that category. So you want to literally do your research and look to see, in this time of COVID-19, if I have to look at commercial investments, what does that look like? So you go on Google. Thankfully, there is Google right now. So you can go on Google and begin to search. So you find which ones is suitable for you. You buy books, read books until you get, clarity on which particular model is actually going to be able to help you within property investments. The third one is land banking. Land banking is where you identify a portion of land in an area that you believe will have potential growth. So you buy the land and sit on it and begin to wait, so that when the time comes, you're going to be ready to be able to turn that land into subdivided plots of land and be able to either sell to a developer or co-partnership and develop houses, or just simply to subdivide and sell completely as single plots or single properties that you have constructed. It tends to work also very well in Africa, of which I'll be very careful and let you know that I've tried investment in Africa, and it's not something that I will do actively because I want to be able to manage the properties. And sometimes remote management with Africa is a bit of a challenge. Even if you have brothers, sisters, your relationship tends to get a little bit affected because of that issue. So I'm not a great fan of being able to invest primarily in Africa if I'm not going to be there to be able to manage properties properly. So that will be around property investment. So remember, first asset class, paper assets, stocks and shares, bonds, treasury bills, cash deposits, okay? And they're all other ones. So all your mutual funds are all in the same category. All of your cryptocurrency are in the same category, including real estate investment trusts. So they're called REITs. So they also fall in the category of a paper asset. If you want to explore more, I'm sharing this so that I hope I'm activating something, so that at the end of our conversation, you begin to think, where should I apply all of my efforts? Why? Because wisdom is profitable to direct. When you know exactly what you want to do, you know how to focus and be able to get the results that you're looking for. The third one is commodities. The third asset class, commodities, requires for you to look at things like oil and gas. You look at grain. I mean, right now we've all experienced the challenges that nations are having, okay? Where we have people that are at home, so we are eating more than we would normally do, and we have very few people that are working in the fields, for example, to be able to give us all our provisions. So as one area for one to focus on in terms of as a business venture, if you're able to, in the ideal of commodities, whether it's farming or whatever, that could be something you can obviously be considering doing your due diligence, so you can see if it's going to work or not. Everything you're going to do, just don't pick up because I've said it. Please go back and do your full due diligence. Literally understand how the market works and how you can begin to make the market work for you. Last but not least is business. This is where many people in this season are going to flourish. Why? Because your gift will make room for you. Many people are gifted in so many areas. The key word is the old normal won't be your current normal. You have to rethink and create your new normal, and your new normal will be starting off a business. What do you know? What are you good at? What are people's problems? What can you solve? I believe that the role of a business is to supply goods and services that people want and are willing to pay for at the price. So you're almost being a problem solver. You're finding problems constantly in the morning, afternoon, in the evening. What are Hello, everyone. Did
Hi.
you lose?
Yeah, I lost you in a minute. Yeah.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry. I went somewhere. I don't know what happened.
Do you still have the control?
I still do. Yes, I've just.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So I was trying to say about this lady. So she works in security, and one of her key roles in that job is she works with people that are vulnerable and are being allocated into different homes, but them have. I mean, it's a bit of a situation. I don't want to go into greater details because obviously of data protection, but basically, she does this as a job and she's good at it, but she's never seen the business side to it. So when she was talking to me about her own, circumstance, I said, well, what exactly do you do? She told me that. Now I said, look, the people that you're looking for, or that you are working with, they need housing. She's like, yeah, I always have to find houses for them. I said, well, if they need housing and you know how the process works, can't you rent a house from somebody and be able to be the one that supplies housing for them? And teach them as well what you teach them outside of that. It was for her, it's like, yes, I can do. And I was like, of course you can do it. So, and the reason I share this is because many of us have giftings and talents that God has given unto us. We are so good at applying those things in our work. We've done it for 10 years, 15 years, but we're taking it for granted. We're not seeing it as to how do I interpret that now and start my own business, which then takes me to the idea of Pastor Gina's idea into how do I turn my passion to profits? What can I do? Whatever I do in my work, I do it so well. Could I set up something and be able to contract that and turn that business into an idea that impacts my world? I believe that this is where our world is changing. We have all been leveled. We are all on the same playing field, everybody, right? Wherever you are, we are all on lockdown. All of us are at home. But the day when that comes for you on your marks, I would say settle down and make the next even 20 days or 30 days A time that you're going to come up with a business plan of a business model. When you execute, it will be entirely up to you when you see the time is right, because you pray, because we have God. Let's use all of those resources, but it will only work when you're clear about the market and how the market works. So Google your own jobs as to services. Just Google what people are Googling for your own job as a service, right? A service provider. And then see what comes up as a business. And then look at that model. There is nothing new under the sun, honestly. All these fundamentals have been taught before and they are already there. Your job is to think, how do I now become me, the authentic me, because I do this in my daily job, and therefore I must translate from doing it in my daily job into my own business. And you can start from being your own business owner. If you can maximize your gifts and your talents in setting up a business, believe me, that wealth that will come from there is what you can now use to be able to create wealth that is long lasting through real estate investments. So you don't have to have a bucket full of money, but you have to have your idea. Turn your idea into something, package it, take it to the marketplace. Organizations are going to stop hiring how they do. If you've been a manager for however long, people have been furloughed, right? So you don't have a job anymore. And if you've been furloughed, if you're at the top of your ranking, and people are working from home. They're so used to working from home because it's the way that is a new norm. When you go back, unfortunately, you might find that that job of yours has been replaced. Why? Because they will hire somebody else who's a good graphics designer to do just that specific job, and that's it, done. They don't need to have anybody else full time. And I can see this becoming the normal trend. So they are areas where you want to focus on. And I'm going to give you my opinion, okay? This is me thinking in terms of ideas that I believe are going to be disruptive, okay? So how our world happens is going to change. And I believe as a result of that, there'll be many businesses that will be formed as a result of COVID-19. I've heard and read about the 1900s depression. I've heard about, circumstances where plagues have hit, but I've also read about businesses that came up as a result of those ones. So you and I are talking right now to say there's a calamity, right? I've got a friend of mine who's in the health sector. She said to me, Caroline, I have never known such success as I'm seeing today. When I saw COVID-19, I was like, my God, my goodness me, my business is going to crumble. Things will stop working. She has not doubled, not tripled, quadrupled her business during this COVID-19 period. So which means that there are other industries. Yes, the airline has gone down, but care hasn't gone down. We need more care opportunities. That doesn't mean online businesses has gone down. Why? Because people are shopping online. You don't go to retail parks, but you're still buying. If you saw my Amazon transaction, how much I'm spending on Amazon, I have never spent so much money on Amazon like crazy. Why? Because all I want is, I don't want anybody to come to my house that could pass me the COVID-19, so I have to order online, purchase my purchases, and they just come delivered. So if you have an online store, guess what? You're the next one to make it big. Your job is to position yourself right, understand the dynamics of marketing online. Don't do it blindly. Do it the professional way. Remember, I said to you that I was taught how to establish a property business, not to become a landlady or landlord. That's the difference. If you start just because an Amazon business, it's not going to work. Literally aim to start a business like a professional you can copy and watch how John Lewis is doing their marketing. You can copy and watch how supermarkets are doing their marketing. You can copy and watch how all these bigger guys are doing their marketing. And they're targeting who? You and I. We're their consumers, we're their customers. So here are my post-business ideas, okay? Mike wants Caroline. So I'm not saying it's going to work for you, but this is what I believe that would work for you. So number one, look at the healthcare sector as a whole. There will be industries that will come out of the healthcare sector, both mental, including, depression situations, counseling, things will come out of that one. And now with an online platform, there will be services that will be, that can be, what's the right word? We got Zoom right now. We're Zooming right now. I don't know where, Bumi, where are you in England? Okay, so I know you're muted, so I'll have to just unmute because I want to ask. Where are you?
Hi, I'm in Eltham, Southeast London.
Southeast London. Do you know where I am?
No.
Yeah, exactly. But we're talking.